pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Could I get a roll call, please? Supervisors Dodge and Gilmore are excused, and we have 3 youth in governance here tonight. Morgan Kalamaga from Judiciary and Law, Anna DeLisi from Judiciary and Law, and Isabella Ricker from Legislative. Welcome, ladies. And did you guys get anything from Supervisor Holman?
He's here. He's here.
Oh, who is he?
He's probably downstairs working on speech.
Okay, we'll go ahead and move on. Tonight we have a presentation by Dan Barr from the Wisconsin Counties Association. Here you go. Yes.
Hello, I'm Dan Barr. Good to be with you. How are you all? Good. Do you want me to go, or I didn't know I was supposed to go right away. Hello. Well, I love Kenosha. It's great to be here. I had a good evening. Just talked to your legislative committee. Had dinner with your county executive, county board chair, and Kenosha is always a wonderful place. You produce a lot of prominent legislators and good people, and so it's good to be here. Oh, yeah, I apologize. Sure. So just want to let you know that the legislative session down in Madison is wrapping up. And lots going on, certainly kind of a flurry of bills right now before the legislature. And I think you've probably seen a lot of updates and things going on in the news regarding juvenile corrections and Lincoln Hills. I had a good conversation with your legislative committee, with your executive, with your board chair, and the challenges that we face as the state has made the decision. They just voted tonight, I found out, and 95-0 to reform the juvenile corrections in Lincoln Hills. They're going to shut down Lincoln Hills and go to more of a regionalized approach. I don't have all the details before me. This is something that was sort of worked out very late in the process. If you asked me 10 days ago what I thought would happen, I guess I would say I don't think anything is going to happen, but sometimes things move pretty quickly in the legislative process. So I will just say this, as I talk to your leadership, it's going to be challenging. It's going to be a challenging time for counties as we seek to implement a new system. It's not going to be cost-free, but we are doing our very best as representing you. Our goal is to minimize the pain, maximize the productivity and positive outcomes of the changes that you'll see in your counties, and to have a smooth transition as possible. Now, I'd be lying if I sat here and told you I don't think there was going to be any cost for you. You're talking about new potential constructions, regionalization of a system that is going to be much different than it was before. So you'll have other county partners to work with. You'll have new challenges. You'll have a new system. I do think long-term, the new system that's being talked about, as you've heard a lot of the problems that have existed in Lincoln Hills in terms of our juveniles, in terms of our youth, as we try to reform these individuals, get them to be productive citizens, tax-paying citizens into society. I think it's going to be more productive in that regard, and I think there will be long-term savings as we foster and rehabilitate more young individuals, improve their lives. Ultimately, that's our goals, I think, as we look ahead. So I think there's some real positive things that will happen as a result of the change. But I would say that there will be some growing pains with the new system, and there'll be some cost, and there'll be some bottom line issues in terms of your budgets as we go forward. But we're doing the very best we can, working with the state as a partner of the state as we overhaul this system, working with them. They have been in constant contact with Sarah Dietrich-Kastorf, who's our expert policy maker on health and human service issues, and also with Kyle Christensen, our legislative director. They've been in meetings with Speaker Robin Voss, who of course is from the area. Also Evan Goyke, representing portions of Milwaukee County. He's the point person for the Democratic side on this issue and represents Milwaukee, and certainly an important issue for them there. And I think it's something that's going to be positive. And all our counties and our communities, as we think about the future. So that's what, and I would say this, I don't have a lot of the details just because it is something that literally has been worked out as I was meeting with your executive and your county board chair. Details were forthcoming, amendments were flying fast on that bill. But we will have a series of details. If you do get the WIS Politics updates that WCA provides all of you, you'll see that there's WIS Politics just literally came over my email. I saw it on my phone. They have an update on some of the bullet points and changes that the state will be making, but the legislation did pass just a few minutes ago, 95-0. So big changes there. You want me to take questions at the end, or you want to fire away? I guess we'll wait till the end. Another issue I think that's a big thing that maybe some of you have heard about and are interested in is the dark stores legislation. Raise your hand if you've heard about the dark stores legislation. Okay, good. So this relates to the valuation of of property for a lot of larger businesses, big box stores in particular, your Walgreens, your Walmart, other entities, and the way their property is valued. In a lot of cases, some of those entities may argue that they are not going to be able to sell their property, even though when it's assessed, the valuation, maybe it's $3 million, they'll argue, well, we can only really sell this because it's so specialized. You know, Walgreens is a drugstore. It's so specialized, we can really only sell it for $2 million, and thus, the valuation, the assessment should only be $2 million. And what's been happening is they've been going to court and they've been pretty successful in challenging the assessments in court, and thus the assessment goes down. We have to send money back to them as counties, as municipalities, and things like that. And where's the fallout? The fallout's with homeowners, people that don't have tribes of attorneys that can come in and argue that their valuation should be cheaper. So it's a major problem. We've got legislation to correct that problem, but unfortunately, due to procedural issues, there's a lot of support for it, but it doesn't appear that the legislation will get a vote at this time. I do feel we've made some progress on that issue because we made it a salient issue, the public's more aware, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on legislators going forward, regardless of what party's in control of the legislature, to try to move forward on that particular issue. And so those are the two big ones right now. And I'd say this too, we have about the Assembly, it sounds like they're going to adjourn for the session for the year tomorrow, and then the Senate is going to have one more session day in the month of March. And so anything that's left over that the Assembly has passed, the Senate will be able to take up. So we'll still be very busy working on your behalf, and on bills that are good we'll be trying to pass, and those that don't benefit you, we're always looking to kill bills too. So I just want to keep it short. I know you got a long meeting tonight, so I'll take questions if you have any. Otherwise, thanks so much for having me. It's been a great trip. I just enjoyed working with Jennifer and Boyd and Jim Cruiser and all you and your legislative committee. It was a good discussion, and appreciate being in the wonderful community of Kenosha. Okay.
Any questions for Dan?
Thank you. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up to citizen comments. If there are any citizens to speak, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, David T.D. Berg, 814 75th Street, Kenosha, Wisconsin. I wasn't planning on saying this, but I think it's appropriate. A great American died today, Billy Graham. And I worked with him, and I did some ministry in Europe and other places, and I think he's greatly respected and honored, so I honor him in this hall tonight. Just a little bit of my background. I don't want to talk a lot about me because I do want to address some issues, but I'm a veteran, educator, Kenosha Unified School District. I'm retired from both of those. Still working at the YMCA in building supervision, City of Kenosha seasonally, and I'm a member of the Kenosha County Jail Board, licensed minister, and recent graduate of the Kenosha County Citizens Academy, which is excellent. And we have an excellent sheriff's department. I'm going to say more on that in a moment. My pastor is Dr. Gilbert Mwachia from Kenya, Africa, and I was a dear friend of the late Reverend Olin Arrington, Second Baptist Church. He called me his vanilla brother. Also, associated with the Frank Neighborhood Project, Reverend William Harris, and that project is doing a lot. Every Thursday they're giving out lots and lots of food. You know, you have people that talk, but they're doing something week after week after week after week. They're helping a lot of people. I give you all this background so you know who I am and what I have to say, and hopefully understand the motive for speaking tonight. There's been much in the Kenosha News and the Voice of the People concerning the thievery that went on, and then Sheriff Beth's response. I have spent a lot of time reading through all of those letters and comments and bantering and emotions. After reviewing the many comments and seeking counsel with key Kenosha leadership, which I will not mention for confidentiality, I propose tonight that our community can use the events that have taken place to become better, not bitter. I'm going to quote the pastor of Summers United Church of Christ. I think she's a member of Cush. Everyone deserves forgiveness. I might add redemption, atonement, grace that comes from Christ alone. This includes the NAACP, Cush, the sheriff, the thieves, and the thief on the cross. If you remember that from the New Testament. He didn't think that he was going too far, but the Lord said, after I pass, you will see me in paradise. Action points. The jail chaplaincy, which I'm a member of the board, is a program devoted, and some of you may not even know this, the challenge of meeting human beings in crisis. And these people, the thieves, they were in crisis. They're probably still in crisis. And there's many young people in crisis. All you have to do is look at what took place down in Florida. Next Tuesday, I'll be speaking concerning Kenosha Unified School District, which I spent 15 years, and I worked in every school, including Hillcrest, where there's just about that far from being sent away. Action points. John Hagerty, he's the assistant chaplain. His phone number is 412-6257. People from these different groups can be involved, not just protest, but take purposeful action for mentoring young people. Same with the Frank Neighborhood Projects. A few quick scriptures. I was in prison, and you visited me. People who are doing well don't need a doctor. I have come to call respectable people, but outcast. Milwaukee Rescue Mission, least, last, lost, the helpless, the homeless, the hopeless. In closing, we have a responsibility, not just rights, but an obligation. And tonight, I publicly stand in support of our Sheriff's Department, our Sheriff Dave Beth, and the programs that can transform people's lives. And finally, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I am passionate about these things. There is one race. There's a lot of division today in our society between rich and poor and black and white, yellow, black, blue, and white. They're precious in His sight. There's only one race, the human race, which you are all a part of here, and we all have red blood. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes to speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Pastor William Harris. I live at 8038 14th Avenue, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of Sheriff David Beth. Sheriff David Beth and I formed the Frank Neighborhood Project about 12 years ago. I came to him because there was a need here in the inner city. He also knew that there was a need in the inner city. And we partnered with the YMCA, whom I'm employed by, whom we also partnered with Kenosha Unified School District, Frank School, and where I work. And we saw a lot of young people in the neighborhood, at-risk kids, parents, drugs, alcohol, all of this was prevalent in the neighborhood. But Sheriff Beth and I knew that together we could make a difference, because it takes a whole village to raise a child. And this is not about black, it's not about white, it's not about Hispanic. It's about loving people that need help, resources, and to be able to believe in them to know that they can make a difference. Sheriff Beth, for the last 10 years, has opened his farm, his home, and his heart up to inner city people, inner city children, at-risk youth that have come out to his farm, never been on a farm in their lives, come out once a year for the last 10, 12 years and experience something that they talk about yearly. They look forward to going out to his farm because he's there, his wife, his family is there. They're opening doors. They're inviting them not only into the farm, but into their home. This is the type of man that Sheriff Beth is. We've gone into the schools, we've gone into the neighborhoods, and we've did presentations, we've did outreach, we've did everything that we could to engage our lives with people, to let them know that you are important, you are possible. That's the type of sheriff, that's the type of friend that I have in David Beth. And I'm here to support him tonight in what he has done, what he is doing, and the type of person that he is. I'd like to read something real quick to you, and this is by Mother Teresa. And it says, "People are unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Love them anyway. If you do good, people will accuse you of selfish, ulterior motive. Do good anyway. If you are successful, you win false friends and true enemies. Succeed anyway. The good you do today will be forgotten tomorrow. Do good anyway. Honesty and frankness makes you vulnerable. Be honest and frank anyway. What you spend years building may be destroyed overnight. Build it anyway. People really need help, but may attack you if you help them. Help people anyway. Give the world the best you have, and you'll get kicked in the teeth. Give the world the best you have anyway." Sheriff Beth gives the world the best, and Kenosha the best he has anyway. And he's a man of integrity, he's a man of worth, and he's a man that's here to do a job. And I thank God for him with the Frank Neighborhood Project. In the Frank Neighborhood Project, as Mr. DeBerg alluded to, we serve people every Thursday night. We serve, and when I say serve, I mean give people food, anywhere from 25 to 50 families every Thursday night. Last year, we gave away 667,000 pounds of food into the inner city. Every year, for the last 10, 11 years, we've been doing that. Sheriff Beth has been a part of that. The YMCA, Frank School, has allowed us to do this. And these are the types of differences that Sheriff Beth, myself, and the inner city is making in the lives of people. So in closing, I'd just like everyone to know that Sheriff Beth has done a lot of great things, not only for Kenosha, but for the inner city children of Kenosha. Thank you for hearing my comments.
Thank you, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Kennedy. My address is 4223 29th Avenue here in the city of Kenosha. I come to you today because I'm a past president of the Kenosha branch of the NAACP. I'm a veteran, I'm a father, I'm also the son of a fierce social activist warrior. I'm a man of faith, and I'm the alderman of the 10th District here in the city of Kenosha. I tell you these things so you have some idea of who I am. I tell you these things because I have a fierce need to address the comments of our Sheriff David Beth. And let me state, for the record, I think our sheriff is a good person doing a tough job. I've admired his dedication to the Frank Neighborhood Project. I know because of his leadership, his department has given Pastor Harris assistance and guidance. This is why I was so disappointed by his comments at a nearly 15-minute press conference on January 25th, 2018. Our sheriff's comments at his press conference as they relate to law enforcement and the pursuit and apprehension of criminals trying to prey on our community is not something I have a problem with. Anyone who believes I have more empathy for criminals who target our community and affect the quality of life of my constituents, my neighbors, and my family are sadly mistaken. My job as alderman, as I see it, is to maintain or improve the quality of life for my community. And sometimes I need law enforcement to help me in that mission. So you've heard on social media that Anthony Kennedy cares more about criminals than he does about law enforcement. You've seen on social media and you've seen in the Voice of the People all kinds of comments towards that. As Kenosha County's highest law enforcement official, it is his charge and duty to bring criminals to justice. I will always support him and any other law enforcement officials in that capacity. Bring criminals to justice. Around minute 13 seconds in the press conference, our sheriff went off the rails with comments I found unbelievable. Put away for the rest of their lives. Minute 14, 19 seconds, he states, some people are not worth saving. Minute 4 and 20 seconds, he reiterates the statements, put them away for the rest of their lives. Minute 5 and 41 seconds in, let's stop them. Some of these males from going out and getting 10 other women pregnant and having small children. Let's stop them, some of these males from going out and getting 10 other women pregnant, having small children. Then on January 29, 2018, Sheriff Beth issued an apology. At that point, my faith in his character was restored. I felt his comments from the press conference was a deviation from norm, an aberration born out of frustration. And then our sheriff walked back to his apology and stated he stands by everything he said. Some of you know, I stood by Cush, the NAACP, and displayed a momentary loss of composure at their press conference across the street in the public safety building. Again, that was a deviation from norm. That was an aberration born out of frustration. Here is the most troubling aspect for me in the sheriff's comments. At his press conference, his apology, his walk back of his apology, even my antics, does nothing towards fostering better relations in our community between those who need law enforcement and those who are law enforcement. We're all in this together. We need to find ways to build bridges, not erect more fences. I have people in my community who would not talk to the police, even though there are people preying on them, even though there are people affecting their lives in such a manner that they will not talk to the police to help alleviate that situation, because the distrust of the police is more than the need to get out from under that situation. I cannot have people in my community believing that the sheriff doesn't care about them, that law enforcement doesn't care about them. That is detrimental to what we're trying to do in the 10th District. And our sheriff's comments does not help towards that. I told you that I'm a father. I told you that I'm a veteran. I told you I'm a son of a fierce social activist. And I also told you I'm a man of faith. As the son of Reverend Kennedy, she would come and beat my butt today if I did not come up here and say what the sheriff said was wrong when it was outside of his purview and his duties as law enforcement. I stand with him and any resources he has to put to catch criminals and bring them to justice. But ladies and gentlemen, There was way more said there than just law enforcement.
Please wrap up your comments.
Thank you. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong, Mahatma Gandhi. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In closing, I know our sheriff's a good man, but I need him to clarify. I need to understand who is our sheriff? Is it the man at the initial press conference? Is it the man of the apology? Or is it the man who walked back that apology? Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any other citizen comments? Citizen comments? Any other citizen comments? Seeing none, citizen comments are now closed. We'll move on to supervisor reports. Supervisor Bostrom, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just wanted to report to you and the rest of my colleagues here on the board. Last week, we had our inaugural meeting of the Tax Deeded Property Task Force. I don't know if that's the exact title, but that's what I'm calling it. The meeting was originally scheduled for 1 hour, and we had such a good discussion, the meeting went on to an hour and a half. As I'm sure everybody read in the newspaper, there was significant progress made in the effort to rein in this problem. If you recall, when the board took action to set up this task force, we had in excess of 1,100 properties that were in arrears in taxes greater than 3 years. We had a significant amount of money that was owed to the county. I'm happy to report that as of last week's meeting, the number has been reduced in half. And there's still a long way to go, but we're on the right path. The meeting was attended by myself, a member of finance, a member of IT, a member of corporation counsel, representatives from the clerk's office, and representatives from the treasurer's office. And there was a lot of input from everybody as to how we proceed from here. We decided that we were going to meet again in 2 weeks, and we're going to meet every 2 weeks until April, until we have a clear understanding as to not only how we continue to fix the problem, but what we do moving forward in the way of procedure. One of the things that I wanted to make sure was very clear that we incorporate in any procedures moving forward is that not only are we respectful of the taxpayers and being diligent in collecting taxes when they are in arrears, but also want to make sure that we're respectful of the property owners who are in arrears, not only to give them an opportunity to fix their problem, but to also make sure that we're being fair and equitable to everybody. And these are policies that I know we're going to be able to put together and eventually bring to the board for discussion further on down the road. But I'm very optimistic in how we're moving forward. There was not one person in the room that was pointing a finger, not one person in the room that was saying it's not my fault. Every person in the room was all rowing in the same direction, which was really nice to see. So I look forward to continue to keep you apprised on what's taking place. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Bostrom. Supervisor Berg, you have the floor.
I'm not as eloquent, and I'm not going to have scriptures, but I was voted into my position from a community that is one of the most diverse in the county. I'm on this floor because black, brown, male, female,
Supervisor
young,
Berg, this is committee reports.
as opposed to the other committee reports we haven't had in the past. Okay?
Thank you. Supervisor Boyd Frederick, you have the floor.
Thank you. Mine is about the Legislative Committee and the Legislative Conference that I attended to early this month. We had people, legislators, along with staff, along with other individuals, go over what will be going through the legislative agenda, which will be very, very short this year, as you heard earlier. Today, the 95 bills were brought up to the Assembly. There would be another 60 tomorrow. Some of them have to deal with Human Services, as you heard, Lincoln Hills, but nothing on the dark stores. As we were told at that conference that it was not going to be discussed at all this term. I will have more of an idea of what was passed and how it would affect the counties at our next meeting.
Thank you, Supervisor Frederick. Supervisor Overman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. The Facilities and Public Works Department met at the beginning of the month. A couple quick updates. The Kemper Center shoreline, we received preliminary approval for a $48,000 grant and matching funds from the Wisconsin Coastal Management Program. What this will do will assist Phase 2 of Kemper Center shoreline protection design and engineering plans. None of this will go towards any repairs. We're still very much in the design phase on what needs to be done there. The parks have gotten 3 interns for the upcoming season. 1 Parkside student, 2 Carthage students assisting the Parks Division for the spring semester. They're going to be assisting with graphic design and the Katy Park Oak Savannah restoration. If you saw in the paper a couple of weeks ago, we had a successful youth fishing derby on the KD Lake with the 4-H Club. 50 participants and their parents. We had good ice and a nice morning for that. The next week, if you read the Kenosha News, you saw that we had a record group for the snow bike scramble at the Silver Lake Park, the Fat Tire Races. These are the trails that the clubs have done all the labor on, building these trails over the past couple of years. They had over 100 participants. Then you bring in their families, and there was 300 or 400 people out there for that event, and it was very well received. And I know I talked to a couple of businesses in Paddock Lake that said they had a lot of traffic there with the big bikes on their cars. In keeping with our promotions of public-private partnerships in the Parks Department, we have a new partner for the movie nights in Petrifying Springs Park, Gruber Law Offices, and Hawthorne Hollow will be co-sponsoring the summer programming field trips within Petrifying Springs Park, and we are finalizing agreements to continue yoga and CrossFit in the parks. So these are 3 more things that we offer that the county does not have to have staff and foot the bill for. In golf, for the first time since 2008, we did we raised a couple rates. 2009, we had lowered everything in the middle of the, or peak actually, of the recession. And we kept everything for next year the same, but we raised two areas. We raised the senior pass $10, and believe me, we went through every area golf course's numbers to see where we are in the pack. And we did talk to some of the golf courses, and they kind of look at us as the lead on this, and many of them were hoping that we would be adjusting finally our rates somewhat. But that was it. We did $10 on our senior pass, and we did our gold pass, which is our most expensive pass, $100, which brought it back to what the rate was in 2008. And we have completed our 6th year in a row in the black. That is official. The exact number we still don't have. Highway Department, the County S, County H, 142, the big project we've been talking about. The project design team is putting together an application for the concurrence use permit to be submitted to the FAA. We have gotten tentative approval for our original plans on this project. Things are finally able to move forward, especially in the design phase, and the project is on schedule to be constructed in 2020. On highways also, KR, I've had some people asking me about KR. because we are in the game there, whether we care to be or not, since we control that section of KR where all this work is going to be going on. We are in ongoing talks with the state of Wisconsin, and we should have some finalized plans with the state maybe within the next couple of days. And I can assure you that Kenosha County will not be on the hook for anything major as far as KR. Brookside, March 13th is still the scheduled date for moving everybody back and getting the building for the rehab and everything set up the way it was all designed to operate. So far, we are on schedule. Thank you, that's all I have.
Thank you, Supervisor Overman. Supervisor Hellman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was privileged enough to attend the Wisconsin Counties Association Legislative Exchange this past February 6th and 7th in Madison. For those of you who are wondering what is the Legislative Exchange, it really has two principal purposes. First, to meet with other county board members throughout the state of Wisconsin and to trade ideas on how to combat problems. And second, to hear from state officials and legislators about upcoming changes that are happening. Other than being titled a Legislative Exchange, there really is no title. But there seemed to be quite a bit of consistency between the speakers, so if they wanted to give this one a title, Madam Chair, they certainly could have. It probably would have been how to keep and retain and attract millennials to Wisconsin, because a number of the speakers actually focused on that. One of them was a gentleman by the name of Jim Wood, who is running basically Wisconsin's competitive initiative. I'll be honest, a lot of what he said in his presentation scared me to the point that my body was actually shaking, because much of what he said is not what millennials actually want. And he started with a very interesting statistic. He said 90% of Wisconsin's population growth will occur in the 65 and older age bracket. 90% of the growth in this state will be people 65 years old and older over the course of the next 30 years. People who are between the ages of 18 and 64, that'll stay relatively flat. That's projected to be a 1% growth rate over the next 30 years. 62% of the jobs will require some form of post-secondary education. So the quote that he had on his first slide, or rather the saying he had on his first slide, he said, "The people we want to come to Wisconsin are people who will make rational judgments about their lives." I'm not entirely sure what that meant. I listened to his presentation twice after seeing it in person. It was never really clearly defined, but one of the models that he suggested was that if you are an incoming student at some sort of institution of whether it's college or technical college, and you go to the employer and say, "This is my education plan," the employer looks at it and says, "I like it. Let me knock 5% off of your cost of college for the first year." And then you come back the second year, say, "Present your education plan again." Said employer says, "I like it." They knock another 5% off of your second year, and so forth, with the expectation that you will be hired by that entity. There's problems with that. Retaining skilled labor requires many things beyond just contributing for tuition. So, for example, sorry, I have notes in different places. One of the things that doesn't address in terms of that model is that millennials are critical thinkers, not linear-minded workers. Whether it's at a McDonald's serving food or being an engineer, we need to be challenged, and our varied skills should be utilized. So it's not good enough to pay for my schooling and then say, "Come work for me." There has to be something much larger there that's at stake in terms of engagement. It says that we have to provide for 21st century jobs, particularly ones that will not go away in 5 years. That was not at all part of what he presented. Much of what Mr. Wood talked about was basically sustaining companies as they currently exist. We all know that everything is changing, from how we order products to literally how we're going to be driving our cars in terms of autonomous vehicles. Another speaker that was there who also talked about the importance of millennials was the director of the NACO County's Futures Lab. She's also known as the Director of Research, but they've modified her title. Dr. Amelia Estrate, somebody I like very much. She talked about attracting millennials to work in county government. Two things to think about here. She said, In 2014 versus 2016, there was a 40% increase in the resignation of state and local governments, of employees. In 2014 versus 2016, she said there was a 54% increase in retirement from state and local government. She said millennials want meaningful work that shows an impact. So how have counties tried to tackle that? She mentioned San Diego County has a recruitment strategy where they partner with their local university system and particularly pay attention to recruiting at-risk youth. I'll be honest, I've often wondered what would it mean for some of our young people who come through some of our juvenile justice programs to then turn around and become caseworkers because they understand the issues and the problems that people have. It would radically change the dynamic. San Diego County has made videos of the work that prospective employees would be doing to get them interested. She mentioned Oneida County asks employees to give several months' notice in advance that they will be departing so that they can bring someone in and the person leaving can help train the person who will basically be taking their place. I'll be honest, in many of the NACO documents, I really don't see a lot of Wisconsin counties held up as an example. This is the first time I have seen it, and it's stellar. I want our name to be in something. I'm not sure what. I'm not sure how to get it there, but I'm thinking about it, Madam Chair. Finally, there was a presentation from UW System President Ray Cross talking about the restructuring of cooperative extension. He talked about the focus on closer consolidation of extension educators with campuses. Madison was mentioned several times, and I turned to the county supervisor sitting to the left of me who was from somewhere in the northwestern portion of the state, and I said, "It sounds like Madison's getting an awful lot of control." To which he looked at me and said, "Yeah, that's not a surprise." A friend of mine reminds me that the Wisconsin idea, the boundaries of the university are the boundaries of the state, is our elders' edict against the hoarding of knowledge. I appreciate the plan that President Cross has put forward. I have had a communication with Chancellor Ford to see how she feels about the cooperative extension restructuring. I know that she has a former Parkside faculty member, Dr. Faye Akindis, who now works for UW System. We have our own UW Extension, who's from Kenosha County, John DeMott Mullen, who is also up there working on that. So we have some smart folks with Kenosha ties who understand the problem as well as our community and our culture. But I think if perhaps that move is going to be made with cooperative extension, one of the things that the university system really should do is unlock the resources electronically through its library and make them accessible to every single county official. Whether it's environmental concerns that you're dealing with in your district, better research on how you can progressively combat crime, whether it's addressing transportation, mental health, all of those things should be made available to us, Madam Chair, and right now they're not unless you're essentially enrolled in one of those institutions. So if they are going to consolidate like this, as my friend says, the Wisconsin idea is our elders' edict against the hoarding of knowledge. So if we're going to make that move, then we need to find a way to share in other places just beyond the restructuring that's being presented. So thank you for allowing me to serve, Madam Chair. This was one of the most insightful legislative exchanges that I have been to. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Hallman. Supervisor Gable, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We had a Human Services, Mental Health AOTA, and the Human Services Board meeting at the new care center. And we invited everybody to come over and inspect it. It's going to be it's going to take care of problems in Kenosha with the homeless. And like I say, I wish everybody had a chance to go visit it. It was open Saturday for your tour. Like I say, it's going to solve a lot of the problems in Kenosha with the homeless. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Gable. Supervisor Grady, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was just a week ago today, this past Wednesday, that I met with our Director of Parks, Matt Collins, on the Kemper grounds. We went through the 3rd and 4th floor of what were formerly the girls' dormitory rooms, along with the construction project manager. And what I saw there was quite encouraging. We were taking a look at some spaces that have been kind of neglected, kind of really run down a little bit. And we're seeing new HVAC put in, new electrical, things being brought up to code. And the intent here, I think you may have heard in the past, is to actually generate income from those 3rd and 4th floors at Kemper. And the idea will be that there are different entities, maybe It could be an artist, it could be an architect, it could be someone who wants a small private space that will be available for lease, and that is what is scheduled to happen this late spring into early summer. So just to let you know that it's going according to plan. In terms of the construction phase, it's also going according to plan to make Kemper more self-supporting, to be more viable, more dynamic, and I'm just pleased to report to you that the progress is going well. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady. Seeing no other lights, the only thing I want to remind people is that the April meeting, remember that it's not on the Tuesday because that's the general election. I know that some people were a little confused about the meeting this week. So remember that it will be on Wednesday in April. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on.
County Executive Appointments, 22, Everett Butler to serve on the Kenosha County Commission on Aging and Disability Services.
Refer to Human Services.
Ordinance 22, from the Planning, Development, Extension, Education Committees, an ordinance regarding Mike Brands LLC owner, Kenosha County Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee sponsor, request a rezoning from C2 Upland Resource Conservancy District and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District to C2 Upland Resource Conservancy District and C1 Lowland Resource Conservancy District, Town of Brighton. Decker, yes. Poole, yes. Galitsky, yes. Gilmore, yes. Bostrom, yes.
Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Move ordinance 22.
I have a first by Supervisor Decker and a second by Supervisor Poole. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you. This property is located on the south side of Highway 142, Burlington Road, approximately 450 feet west of the intersection with 216th Avenue. The PDEC-sponsored rezoning would reflect the wetland zoning to coincide with an actual field delineation. The Town of Brighton recommended approval of the request.
Thank you, Supervisor Decker. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Policy resolution, first reading, 2 required from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution to approve mobile device management policy connecting phones and tablets to county IT system. Resolution 67 from the Finance and Administration Committee, a resolution to approve Kenosha County's intent and agreement to self-insure for workmen's compensation. Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. Gens, yes. Dodge, excused. Kubicki, yes. Esposito, yes. Retzlaff, yes.
Supervisor Rose, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. I would move the resolution.
I have a first by Supervisor Rose and a second by Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Rose.
All right, thank you. The Finance Committee considered the proposition that was recommended by the Human Resources Division to continue the self-insurance for workers' compensation. Wisconsin statutes does authorize workers' compensation self-insurance by counties. The Human Resources Director advised that he thought this was the best thing rather than premium-based workers' compensation insurance. Every 3 years, the county is required to once again authorize either self-insured or premium-based workers' compensation premiums. The recommendation to you this evening is to endorse the continuation of self-insurance for workers' compensation.
Thank you, Supervisor Rose. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 68 from the Human Service Committee, resolution to approve the county executive appointment of Edmund Weaver to the Kenosha County Commission of Aging and Disability Services. Gable, yes. Hallman, excused. Retzlaff, yes. Blau, yes. Berg, yes. Poole, yes. Dodge, excused.
Supervisor Gable, you have the floor.
I move resolution 69. I'm sorry, 68.
Which one is it?
68.
68, okay. I have a first by Supervisor Gable and a second by Supervisor Retzlaff. Supervisor Gable?
This is a reappointment to the Aging and Disability Service Board.
Anything else about her?
No. He's been on it. This is his second term.
And how was his attendance?
It was good.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 69 from the Human Service Committee, a resolution to approve the county executive appointment of Richard Willoughby to the Kenosha County Commission of Aging and Disability Services. Gable, yes. Hallman, excused. Retzlaff, yes. Blau, yes. Berg, yes. Poole, yes. Dodge, excused.
Supervisor Gable, you have the floor.
This is a reappointment of Richard Willoughby to the Kenosha Aging and Disability Board. His attendance has been good, and he's been on the board.
Move the resolution first.
Okay, I'll move the resolution. Okay.
Thank you. I have a first by Supervisor Gable and a second by Supervisor Blau. Now you may speak up.
Okay, this is a reappointment to the Aging and Disability Board. He has great attendance and he's well respected.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 70 from the Human Service Committee, a resolution to approve the county executive appointment of Janice Erickson to the Kenosha County Commission of Aging and Disability Services. Gable, yes. Hallman, excused. Retzlaff, yes. Blau, yes. Berg, yes. Poole, yes. Dodge, excused.
Supervisor Gable, you have the floor.
I move Resolution 70.
I have a first by Supervisor Gable and a second by Supervisor Berg. Supervisor Gable.
This is again a reappointment of Janice Erickson to the Commission of Aging and Disability. She's been on it, and she's good. Thank you.
How's her attendance?
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Only the best.
No one ever has any questions. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 71 from the Judiciary and Law and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution regarding 2017 Equipment Grant Award, Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs, Homeland Security Bomb Squad Portable X-Ray Device. Judiciary and Law, Blau, yes. Frederick, excused. Retzlaff, yes. Skalitsky, yes. Wemble, yes. Finance Admin, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. Gens, yes. Retzlaff, yes. Dodge, excused. Kubicki, yes. Esposito, yes.
I'm not sure which one of you is doing it. Supervisor Blau or Supervisor Rose?
I can do.
Okay, Supervisor Blau, you have the floor.
So resolution again. Sorry, I move resolution 71.
Yes. I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Rose. Supervisor Blau?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a grant that the Sheriff's Department has received $80,000 from the state of Wisconsin to purchase a portable X-ray device, which will be used to examine suspicious packages that could be a potential hazard. The awarding agency isn't requiring a hard match for this award, so there's no additional tax levy dollars requested. And they are requesting that the board accept this grant and approve their revenue and expenditure budget modifications to the 2018 budget. And this resolution requires no funds from the general fund. It increases revenues by $80,000 and increases expenditures by $80,000.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. Seeing no lights, this is a budget modification, and 2/3 vote is required. Yes if you're for it, no if you are against it. Motion passes.
Resolution 72 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement and Finance and Administration Committees, a resolution regarding 2017 Equipment Grant Award, Wisconsin Department of Military Affairs, Homeland Security, Alert EOD Ballistic Protection. Judiciary and Law, Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick, excused. Retzlaff, yes. Skalitsky, yes. Wemble, yes. Finance Administration, Rose, yes. Ron Frederick, yes. Gens, yes. Retzlaff, yes. Dodge, excused. Kubicki, yes. Esposito, yes.
Supervisor Blau, you have the floor.
I move resolution 72.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Kubicki. Supervisor Blau.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is an award to the Sheriff's Department, $2,400 from the state of Wisconsin to purchase 4 Alert EOD ballistic protection helmets, which will be used for joint SWAT responses and EOD missions. They are asking for the Board of Supervisors to accept this grant and approve the revenue and expenditure budget. And this also does not change the budget modification or the amount in and out spent. And the funding period for this grant expires May 30th, 2018.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. Seeing no lights, this is a budget modification. Motion passes.
Resolution 73 from the Judiciary and Law Enforcement Committee, a resolution for cabaret license, raise, change of pace. Leah Blau, yes. Boyd Frederick excused. Retzloff, yes. Scalitsky, yes. Wemble, yes.
Supervisor Blau, you have the floor.
I move Resolution 73.
I have a first by Supervisor Blau and a second by Supervisor Retzloff. Supervisor Blau.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. An application for raise change of pace was made during the month of January 2017, and they were granted a probationary cabaret license. There was they did a review of the establishment and found that it was within conformity within County Ordinance 8.02. And therefore, they are requesting that in place of a regular cabaret license, or in place of a probationary cabaret license, a regular cabaret license be granted to raise change of pace.
Thank you, Supervisor Blau. Seeing no lights, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Resolution 74 from the Planning Development Extension Education Committee, a resolution appointment of Greg Kruchko as the Kenosha County representative to the Hooker Lake Management District Board. Decker, yes. Poole, yes. Scalitsky, yes. Gilmore, yes. Bostrom, yes.
Supervisor Decker, you have the floor.
Move Resolution 74.
I have a first by Supervisor Decker and a second by Supervisor Bostrom. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you. This resolution would appoint Greg Kruchko as Kenosha County representative to the Hooker Lake Management District Board. The Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee reviewed this item at their February 14th, 2018 meeting and recommended approval.
Did he appear in person?
Yes, he did, and I'd like to, Supervisor Poole had some very good questions for him regarding the things going on with Hooker Lake.
Good, thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
Communications from Andy and Bueller regarding future items scheduled before the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee.
Receive and file.
Claims, Sayande Stewart, lost property.
Refer to Corporation Counsel.
Summons and complaint, Katie A. Irving, violation of civil rights.
Refer to Corporation Counsel.
Supervisor Grady, comments?
Supervisor Grady, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It was Thursday of last week that I phoned into the county clerk and asked to be able to speak briefly, I do say briefly, on the dark stores issue that's come to light. At that time, I had various questions about dark stores, the implications, and although some data has come forward, I read some newspaper articles, and we had our speaker address them briefly here, I still think there's at least as many questions going forward as there are answers. And some of these items include the topics such as, dark store versus an active store, the tax assessments, the court challenges to tax assessments. It looks as though some communities have had to battle larger corporate entities, some being domestic, some being multinational. But the question I have about this whole process is, and again, this is kind of the exploratory phase. I don't really have answers. I have more questions than answers. And hopefully, through the people assembled in this room, we can shed some light upon this. Has this whole issue become a political question? Has it become a political issue? I'm hearing rumblings of that they're not willing to take it up in Madison to have this discussed. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but hopefully going forward we can have more information and discussion on this county board floor than what we've had to this point. I think I'd like to back up, though, and just draw a brief analogy. And this kind of dovetails on Supervisor Bostrom's earlier comments. It was a mere 5 or 6 months ago that it was brought to our attention, rather rudely in a way, that we had quite a few tax delinquencies here in Kenosha County, and they had been going on for some time. And through prodding, through diligence, I believe you said, Supervisor Bostrom, we're down from 1,100 to about half that amount. So that's significant progress. To me, it's not a partisan issue. That is value to the taxpayers. If you truly believe that you are elected in this position to provide value to the taxpayers, that's a good thing. So much along those lines, we'd like to think, can there be a future time when we can review some of these dark store items? I encourage each one of you in this room to look into it yourself and think about the future and what we can do. Should we have further information, further discussion? Should we consider as a county board offering a resolution to our feelings on these issues where the dark stores versus the stores that are in operation have some amount of discrepancy? I don't know if I have more to say on that topic than this, but I think it's incumbent upon all of us to at least consider this and to revisit it here in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grady.
Approval of the January 16th, 2018 minutes by Supervisor Retzlaff.
Supervisor Retzlaff, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move the approval of January 16, 2018 minutes as written.
I have a first by Supervisor Retzlaff and a second by Supervisor Wamble. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. I have, who wants to, Supervisor Gens to adjourn and Supervisor O'Day to second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Have a nice night.
Feeling all right? Better? Looking good. Every day is a better